This is SSN
Story Studio Network.
This is the Biz Doctor podcast,
and I'm your host,
Lauren Goldstein. Hello, and welcome back to the show. In today's episode, I'm going to talk about 3 simple things you can do as a business owner and leader of your team to create a more autonomous and self-sufficient team. This is honestly one of my favorite subjects to walk through with my clients because there is nothing that can get you closer to true entrepreneurial freedom than a high-performing team that can run without you. So let's dive in, shall we? First, I want to talk about perhaps one of the hardest habits to break, but the most worthwhile: being reactive and also being always available. Let's start with being reactive. You guys have heard me talk about this time and time again, and you know the drill. Something happens when the team comes running to you to see what they should do, so you drop everything and try to fix it on the spot. Ugh, it's the worst, right? You just got in the zone, you're working on stuff, making progress, and then all of a sudden something blows up in your business, and then your day is off the rails. It's the worst. So here's a few ways to break this habit. First, say it with me.
That sounds like an interesting problem to solve. I cannot address it right at this moment, but I do have time in about an hour or later today.
I know. I just felt everyone panic who heard me say that. So let me give you a bit more context. There are rarely, and I mean rarely, any cases in business where something is a stop all the presses, call 911 and the fire department, we've got an emergency. I know that sounds strange in today's I want things yesterday kind of society and mentality and quick fixes and instant gratification. But honestly, there are very few things that are a true emergency. My team knows that my joke is unless somebody is bleeding, there's bone showing, or someone's dying, it's not actually an emergency. Like, it's really not. So take a moment. Realize that it's probably not an emergency and it doesn't need to be done in this moment. The reason for that is really acting in crisis mode where emotions are heightened and critical thinking is lessened is a recipe for, you guessed it, more mistakes down the road. So not only is it super stressful, but it can create other mistakes and create that ripple effect. Just take a moment. So here's an unlikely side effect to not being emergent or reactive with your business. Your team actually slows down too. And I can safely say 9 out of 10 times where I wasn't available, they sent a Slack 10 minutes later that said something like, never mind, we figured it out. It wasn't that big of a deal as we thought. All good now. Like, honestly, think back to all the quote unquote emergencies that you've dealt with over the past week. How many were actually emergencies and how many could have really easily been solved by somebody that wasn't you? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say probably a lot. Which leads me to the second part of this. I know us business owners have big egos and like to be needed or even feel important, but guess what? Being available all the time or being the bottleneck of your business, you are actually creating a team that is hobbled and reliant on you, which means that you are inadvertently painting yourself into a vicious cycle of codependency that won't enable you to step away from your business effectively to say, I don't know, have a life. So take a breath, take a beat. It will decrease your stress load. It'll help you run your day instead of the other way around. Plus, no one likes having to put out fires all day and getting nothing else done. There is nothing worse, honestly. Is there really anything worse than feeling like you just spent your entire day doing nothing but running around like a chicken with your head cut off, putting out fires, and now you're exhausted and more behind? I don't think so. To drive this point home, it has been scientifically proven that humans cannot multitask. And for every distraction, it takes about 25 minutes, 23 minutes, 15 seconds to be exact, to get refocused, according to Gloria Mark, who studies digital distraction at the University of California, Irvine. Distractions don't just eat up time during the distraction, they actually derail your mental progress, forget this, up to a half hour afterwards. And that's assuming that another distraction didn't just pop up in that half hour that you're trying to get refocused. In other words, that 30 seconds to check Slack isn't just 30 seconds down the drain, it's 25 minutes and 30 seconds. What makes it even worse is that not being interrupted is actually seeming like a pipe dream. The average person gets interrupted once every 8 minutes. 8 minutes, people! And half of those are self-interruptions. Hello, notification ding. Okay, so now that I've gotten that out of the way, we've got you off of tiny fire triage. Let's talk about the second level of getting you out of your team's way and empowering them. You've heard me talk about this on other episodes, but my favorite question to ask to empower your team and to also suss out if I have a player or worker bee in front of me is this question.
How would you suggest we do this?
Oh, I love it. It's so simple and so profound. Just picture this. Your team has come to you with yet another problem. Instead of you taking off that other hat you were wearing and putting the problem solver on and trying to figure it out for them, you say, tell me, how would you suggest we solve this or do this or accomplish this? And see what they say. They might just surprise you. And the reason I love this question so much is it gives the ownership back to them. It puts them in the driver's seat, which makes them more invested in the solution. And again, most importantly, it takes you out of the equation. Again, you've heard me talk about this before. My single most important goal when working with my clients is getting them out from under their business and their teams. So when you take you out of the equation and actually let the team to start to think without your expertise, not only do you suddenly have more time in your day, you also, and more importantly, suddenly get to see them step into their superpowers, and chances are they're actually going to find a solution that is better than what you could have cooked up. Now, I will add a caveat here. I am not advocating for you to abandon the ship or go MIA. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is taking some time to really be discerning about what does and really doesn't need your input. When you build the right team for you and get the right butts and seats, then you will have no trouble trusting them to come to you when you are really needed and running it without you when you're not. And if you're not sure if you have the right team for you or if you have the right butts in your seats, I have many episodes before this one that will help you figure that out. And if you really need help, please reach out. There is nothing that I love more than helping you design the right team around you. So now I'm going to bring you home with the rule of 3. Now, I feel like I need a slight disclaimer with this one because it might trigger some of you listening, but trust me, this one is solid gold. The rule of 3. It states that you cannot ask me an impromptu question unless you've consulted 3 other places. Those places being our internal KB or knowledge base, one of your other teammates, or Google. I know this might sound harsh, but what I'm actually doing is helping them sharpen their critical thinking skills and getting me out from underneath the business because it stops being a never-ending merry-go-round of, hey, can I ask you a quick question? Hey, do you have 5 minutes? Or Slack after Slack after Slack after Slack. Now, I'm sure you're saying, sheesh, she sounds like a treat. Poor employees never being able to ask questions. Not even close, my friends. We have weekly and sometimes daily huddles when we're in crunch time where the whole team comes with questions, blocks, and support requests. What I love about these meetings is, again, it is efficient. It takes out the reactionary norm that causes most businesses to run around like chickens with their heads cut off. It gets the team to be more proactive with what they need, where they're stuck, and increases communication and collaboration. Oh, and it also gets rid of my biggest pet peeve in business. Silos created by competition. That attitude is like cancer, and I cut it out as soon as I can find it. The best businesses do not have silos. They have collaboration, and the only competition they have is with yourself to do better today than you did yesterday. What I also love about the rule of 3 is it uncovers areas in a system or SOP that need to be created. Because if it's not in our internal KB, no one on the team knows, and Google came up short, that means it's a concentrated risk because the answer only lies in my brain, which again means that it's harder for me to step out of the business when the team can't read my mind. The same is true for you business owners who are listening. So much of the institutional knowledge we have about our business, our customers, our SOPs, processes, etc. are so valuable, but they're only valuable when someone beside us knows it. Because here's the truth. We all know our birthday. We do not know our death day. And not to be morbid, but we don't know if tomorrow we're going to wake up sick, we're going to not wake up, we're going to be on vacation. Like, there's so many unknowns in life that if you have a lot of institutional knowledge that's stuck in your head and not at the tips of your team's fingers, then you're in for a rude awakening, because one day will come where you won't be able to get to the office and things are going to stop. So my advice to you is be proactive. Get those things out of your mind, put them in a place the team can readily reach them, and just be open and aware. When things pop up like this, you can say, okay, that's an opportunity to get this out of my brain. Let's make an SOP. Let's make some sort of process. Let's put it somewhere. So to recap, the ways to have a more autonomous and self-sufficient team are breaking that reactive muscle and not being available 24/7 to your business or your team. Which reminds me, if you want to know about the ultimate stress test for your business, go back and listen to season 1, episode 19 next. So getting yourself out of the way with my favorite question is number 2, how would you suggest we do this? And then number 3, implementing the rule of 3. I know all of this might seem very simple or commonplace. It's a little harder than it sounds. But trust me, when you put in the work and the consistency of these 3 things, you will be amazed how it changes your team, your business, your life. Suddenly people are having more fun. You're having more fun. I mean, there's nothing I love more than when my team comes to me and says, so we have a problem, and these are the 3 ways that I suggest we fix it. Which would you like? Or my even most favorite is, so this happened, we fixed it, here's how we make sure that it's not going to happen again, which I talked about in the previous episode of how to make the most of your employees' mistakes. So guys, I know this is a little bit of work up front, but you will thank me when you have an autonomous, self-sufficient, high-performing team, because there is nothing better than true entrepreneurial freedom and the space in your day to work on the business instead of in the business, or take a vacation or take a break or take a nap. Who cares? The point is, empower your team with these 3 different ways, and you will thank me. All right, guys, that's it for this week's episode. Whew, that was a juicy one. Thanks so much for listening in. If anything I shared sparked something in you, I'd love to hear from you. Let's connect. Tag me or DM me on Instagram at It's Lauren Goldstein, or LinkedIn, or wherever you hang out on the interwebs. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you are the first to get notified when our next episode is live and ready for your ears. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time. So which part of your business needs love and attention? You might be wondering that. Here are your next steps. Head to goldenkeypartnership.com or the show notes below to schedule your diagnostic deep dive.
Thanks for listening to the Biz Doctor podcast.
If you love the show, please share it with your colleagues or tag me on social media, especially LinkedIn. And subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Story Studio Network.